What is up, everybody? It is Drew, Traveler of the Burning Abyss, here with another video. And this week we're going to be taking a look at Unchained. This is one of my, definitely one of my favorite decks. I love playing this deck. It's a very rogue-based strategy, but it does have a lot of things that do counteract the meta, and I think that's something very, very important about the deck, is that you do have a lot of neat interactions that kind of just throw the game off for your opponent. So I think that's obviously something worth noting. I think that it's a deck that can actually perform fairly well against a lot of the meta decks. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the deck profile. Obviously, before we do, if you're not subscribed already, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload more cool and awesome content, just like the video you're watching right now. And that thumbs up button is obviously always going to be calling your name, so you might as well just hit it while you're watching the video. It helps out a whole lot. We are trying to reach 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I think right now we're at like 1765 or something like that. So yeah, let's go ahead and get that subscriber number up to the 2K. But without further ado, let's take a look at some Unchained shenanigans. Okay, so per usual, we'll start with the main deck. We're going to start with the Unchained lineup. We are playing 3 copies of Aruha. So Aruha states that you can target a card that you control, and you can't special summon fiends for the rest. Special summon anything other than fiends for the rest of the turn. You destroy the targeted card, which is obviously really cool, and it special summons itself from hand when you do that. So it's basically an extender or a combo starter, depending how you look at it. It's kind of both. And then if he's destroyed in the field by a card effect, this is actually like really crazy, or by battle even, which is also even crazier. You can special summon an Unchained monster from your hand or deck except for him. So essentially it gets destroyed by battle or card effect. Go ahead and special summon an Unchained from your hand or deck, which is fantastic. This is like one of the most important pieces in your deck. The twins are just really important in general. I don't see any reason to run less than 3 of these. They're just really, really good. Then we have 3 copies of Rakea. So Rakea basically is a quick effect that lets you just target a card that you control and destroy it. It has the same summon ability as Aruha does, as far as when it gets destroyed by battle or card effect, which I think is important. Very, very interesting card. You can pop one of your cards in the field, and obviously helps out a lot. So like, let's say you open up Rakea and Aruha. You can normal the Rakea, and then you can activate Aruha and hand target this, destroy it, and special this, and then summon another Unchained twin from your deck off of the effect of Rakea being destroyed. So that's actually pretty darn cool. So yeah, we play 3 of those. Then I actually play 3 Sarama. For a long time I was playing 2, but this card actually keeps your deck going and helps you grind the game out. Essentially, it lets you reset your Unchained cards from your grave, and there are trap cards that play a very integral role in this deck's functionality, and I think for that reason, playing 3 Sarama is worth it. The one thing to note with this is that it doesn't lock you. So with the Rakea and the Aruhas, they lock you into fiends, whereas this does not do so. So it's actually even more powerful. Up next, we have 2 Abominable Unchained Soul. You can summon these off of your Unchained cards being destroyed, like your twins. The twins can summon this from hand or deck. And then, if it's special summoned, you get to discard a card and pop a card your opponent controls, which is really crazy. And the crazier part is that it doesn't target, which is fantastic. And then during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard, so it's destroyed on the field and sent there this turn, you can special summon it, but place it on the bottom of the deck when it leaves the field. So you get to recycle itself, which is crazy. Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than the fact that this card is nuts. But you obviously don't want to draw it, so we're not playing 3. We just play the 2. And lastly, the big brick, our doggy boy, Unchained Soul Disaster. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this up to the camera and let everybody pause the video and read it if they'd like. Figure that's enough time to let you pause. But essentially, and I'll go over the effects. It's just a bit longer. Some people may not want to listen to me read it. They might just want to skip through. But card's going to gain 300 attack for each Unchained card, not just monster, card in your graveyard. So that's important to note. And you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. So we're getting to those now. You can target one face-up monster your opponent controls immediately after this effect resolves. Link summon one Dark Link monster using only this card you control and that opponent's monster as material. So if they have like a Link 2, you could summon a Link 3. If they have a Link 3, you could summon a Link 4. If you're just using a regular monster, then you would just summon a Link 2. Yeah, card's really, really good. And then if this card in the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you target an Unchained monster in your graveyard, accept this card, and special summon it. So yeah, it's got some cool looping capabilities. I think this card is fantastic as far as its effects go, but drawing it is obviously less than optimal. Moving on next to the hand traps. This deck has a very interesting interaction with two important hand traps this format. We'll start with the major one, and that is Dimension Shifter. So I know what you're thinking. Well, these cards trigger when they're destroyed. How does Dimension Shifter even make sense? The cool thing about Unchained is that they don't actually have to hit graveyard for their effects to trigger. They can be destroyed by battle or card effect, and as long as they're just destroyed by one of those two, they'll trigger. They don't actually have to trigger in graveyard. So if you activate a Dimension Shifter, you can actually resolve all of your Unchained effects on destruction. So this card is actually fantastic in this deck. This card is crazy. Imagine going off on like a tier player's board, and then on your turn you just set up full combo and you pass back to them. You basically turn skip them, and then you get a full turn, and then they basically lose on the follow-up. So yeah, 3 shifters really good. 3 copies of Nibiru. There's a very interesting interaction with this card and Rakea. So essentially what happens is, let's say you have a Nibiru in hand and you have a Rakea on field. You can activate your Nibiru in hand and chain Rakea to pop one of your cards on the field. Then the Nibiru actually doesn't summon itself. I believe it just tributes everything. So yeah, it's actually a really cool interaction. It's very similar to the interaction in Orcust, because Orcust did something like that, where they would activate Nibiru and then they'd chain Harpor, or something along the lines of that, Symbol Skeleton, all that good stuff. So yeah, Nibiru is actually fantastic. We have 3 copies of Ash, 3 copies of Moonlit, and 3 copies of Imperm. So the reason we play all of these primarily is because none of them conflict with D-Shifter. All of them are perfectly fine with D-Shifter. Obviously the Imperm doesn't matter. Everyone knows Ash discards, but in case you did not know, Ghost Mourner also discards. It is not a send to graveyard effect. It is a discard effect. So that actually is very, very important, because it's an effect veiler, and against a lot of matchups, effect veiler type effects are really good right now, / Imperm type effects. So I think that these hand traps are fantastic against the meta. Obviously the D-Shifter and the Nibiru are fantastic too, but you have to have other cards to play going second as well. And this list does kind of center itself around me losing the dice roll, because I am terrible with dice rolls lately. That's why I was playing Runic Sprite for a short stint, because like it didn't matter if I went first or second. But those are all the monsters. We'll move on to the spells now. We have 3 copies of Abomination Prison. This is like Rhoda for your Unchained cards. Also, if this set card is destroyed by a card effect, you can special summon an Unchained monster from your deck. So it has a destruction effect, which is amazing. So if you open up 2 of this, you activate one, you search for either your Rakea or Ruha, you set the other one, and then this gets popped by one of their effects, and then you get to combo off. You basically just need 2 Unchained cards essentially to pop off, and then you have your full combo. Then we play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. For a very long time, people played Extravagance in this deck, and I know before Extravagance was out, before Prosperity was out, I was playing Extravagance. But once Prosperity was released, I opted to play it because I think the card is just infinitely better. This card is fantastic. Looking at 6 cards and picking one is a lot better than just drawing 2 random cards. Because you have a larger selection to pick from, and you can get a card that's a lot more important. So this card, in my eyes, will always be a whole lot better than Extrav. And last spell is 1 copy of Called By, because it's a god card. Nothing else to say about that. Moving on to the traps, we have 3 copies of Escape. So Escape of the Unchained basically lets you target an Unchained monster you control and 1 card on the field, and you destroy them both. That's part 1 of the effect. So obviously in a deck that floats so much, this card is fantastic because you just pop an opponent's card and then you keep playing, which is just amazing. Like there's no other way to describe it. The other thing to note is its second effect has the same effect as your twins, where if it gets popped, it will special summon. It also, you know, matches with the Abomination's Prison, being able to special when it's popped. Keep in mind it does have to be set for that to occur. But yeah, card's really good. And lastly, we have 3 copies of Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. It lets you special summon an Unchained monster from your hand or graveyard. So in the instance that you do draw your Unchained Soul of Disaster, your doggy friend, you can always activate this to special it from your hand, which does kind of help a little bit, but you have to wait a full turn to really do that. So it's not always the best, but it's something. At least it's something. But same thing, it also has the destruction effect, special summon. So yeah, this deck basically punishes your opponent for destroying stuff, which I think is really good. But that's the main deck. We're going to go ahead and hop on over to the extra deck to see just exactly how the extra deck is played and why. All right, so starting out, we have 3 copies of Unchained Soul of Rage. So this is the card that you're going to primarily be making as far as your first turn combos go. So it's a link to 1800 attack, which is nothing crazy. Its requirements are 2 monsters, including an Unchained Soul monster. Your Unchained Soul monsters are your dog and your 2 Abominables. So yeah, I'll show one combo at the end of the video. That way everybody kind of understands what you're going for every single game. But essentially this card does is it lets you, during your opponent's turn, link summon using itself in one of your opponent's cards. So you can link off one of their cards in this, make a Nightmare Unicorn, and then shuffle one of their cards back in, which obviously is fantastic. Really strong. So yeah, that's obviously the most important effect to know. However, I'm going to move this up so everyone can pause it again if they'd like to. But there is a second effect, and it says if this card in the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target a feed monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So yeah, if it gets destroyed, that's fine, because you still get to add resources back. So very strong card. We also play 3 copies of Unchained Soul of Anguish. This has a similar ability to Unchained Soul of Rage, in which it allows you to link summon using your opponent's cards. However, Unchained Soul of Rage you can use on your opponent's turn, and Anguish you can only use on your turn. So that's actually pretty darn important. That being said, though, it is 2400 attack. It is a link 3, which means climbing into link 4s is a little bit easier. And on top of that, it does have the same effect of if it's destroyed, you add a fiend from your grave back to hand. So that's pretty cool. And we've got 2 copies of Unchained Abomination. Some people are probably really familiar with this card because it's been gaining a lot of popularity lately. But if you don't know what it does, it needs 2 monsters, including a link monster, and if a card in the field is destroyed by a card effect, except by Unchained Abomination, and except during the damage step, you can target a card in the field and destroy it. When a monster is destroyed by battle, you can target 1 card in the field and destroy it. During the end phase, you can target 1 card in the field, destroy it. Basically, you're going to be destroying a whole lot of stuff. So yeah, if you can get this out, you're going to really just ruin your opponent's day. Yeah, card's fantastic. Then we have, for the other link monsters, we have 1 Dark, 1 Unicorn, 1 Access, and 1 Underworld Goddess. So the Dark is obviously in this deck because you do a lot of Dark plays, and you could bring one of your opponent's cards back and just use it for link material and climb up a little bit, which is fantastic. As far as the Nightmare Unicorn goes, I did discuss how you can use it with Solar Rage. Obviously, you can combo off on your turn too if need be and shuffle your opponent's stuff back. Access code, which doesn't come up excessively, but if your IP into Unicorn goes well and they kind of pass their turn, you always have the ability to drop your access code with Unicorn, another monster, and then just swing in for big points. And lastly, Underworld Goddess is fantastic because she's a fiend, so even if you're locked into fiends, you can still summon her. And being able to use your opponent's stuff as material is insane. Absolutely insane. So those are all of the Link monsters. I do have a set of XYZ monsters here, and these are like the 3 flex spots in the extra. You can play whatever you want. It doesn't matter. I go over this a lot of time. People ask me questions in the comments like, what if I want to play this? What if I want to play that? Just play it. Change the list to be yours. So I have the King Darius, the Deus Machinax, and the Zeus. So the Zeus is kind of hard to pull off if you're locked into fiends. However, the Darius and the Deus Machinax are very easy to go into because they are fiend monsters, and it's going to allow you to basically steal 3 of your opponent's monsters to activate their effects on the field, which to me is fully worth it. Anytime that you can steal monsters in response to your opponent activating their effects, it's fantastic. It doesn't negate their effects, but it does steal them and put them on him as material. So you would remove 2 materials off of it. I'm sorry, I said activate this 3 times, and you won't be doing that. You'd be activating it, I think twice. No, it is 3 times. Yeah, no, 2. Sorry, I'm all over the place. But yeah, so you'd be resolving his effect twice because this is going to have 2 materials under it. So you're going to have 3. You'll detach 2 to take one of your opponent's cards. That'll go up to 2. Then you detach 2 to steal their card again, and that'll put 1 card under it. So you get to steal 2 of your opponent's monsters, which in some cases can be fantastic. Now, if this is, you know, made on a turn that you're not locked into fiends, you can obviously make a Zeus, which is fantastic. If you do resolve this effect twice, then at least the Zeus will have 1 board wipe, which is better than nothing. But this doesn't come up as much. These will come up a lot more than the Zeus does, and a lot of people are going to scoop when they see stuff like this. So yeah, that is the extra deck. We're going to go ahead and jump on over to the side deck to see what we do for games 2 and 3. All right, so for the side deck, let's go ahead and dive into this. For time, we are playing Spooky Dogwood. I feel like that's just a thing. Yeah, you need this for time. Additionally, it is a discard, so you don't have to worry about D-Shifter ruining it, which is fantastic. So yeah, this card is very, very powerful against a lot of decks who definitely take a long time with their turns. So if you have the ability to play this card, I would highly recommend it. It's fantastic. It puts in a whole lot of work. I've won a lot of games using this card. So yeah, definitely worth playing. We have some back row removal in the form of Cosmic Cyclones and Harpy's Feather Duster. Additionally, to complement these, we do have 3 copies of Evenly, and Evenly isn't just for back row decks, so keep in mind that it can be used against like combo tier, all kinds of tier decks. So I think that 6 cards is fantastic, and considering we're playing Prosperity, we should theoretically see at least one of these when we side them in. So yeah, very, very powerful to have these kind of cards in your arsenal. Then I do side some cards specifically for going first. I play 3 copies of Anti-Spell and 3 copies of Dimensional Barrier. So I think that these cards are very, very powerful, and they cut your opponent off from doing a lot, which obviously is fantastic. You want to have the ability to just shut your opponent down completely, and these cards will do so. Your typical turn 1 board will end on just 1 monster, which you'll see in a moment. So you don't have to worry about being super polyed. You can flip the anti-spell and just sit there and watch your opponent cry, which is fantastic. So yeah, I think that's important. Then obviously D-Barrier, like it's really good against Synchro decks, XYZ decks, Fusion decks, Ritual decks, all that. Obviously, it does nothing against link deck, so there's no reason to play it against a link deck, but I think that these cards are fantastic. If you wanted to, I could see an argument for playing something along the lines of like the Artifact engine. I thought about playing it, but I think my space was just way too tight and I couldn't squeeze anything else in. So I opted to go with these instead, and I think that they're really, really strong choices. It just counters a bunch of the meta. You drop this on tier and they just cry. So yeah, definitely play cards like this to just slow your opponent down. You could play other stuff too. You could play stuff like, you know, summon limit if you wanted to. It seems kind of weird, but you could. You could play rivalry because your deck is like all fiends, so that's actually pretty important. But yeah, whatever you want to play, obviously play it. These are just the cards that I think are good for my local meta. That, however, does bring the video, the deck profile portion of the video to a close. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the 2-card combo that you can do with this deck. That way you can see just exactly how the deck functions and what your basic end board will look like. So let's take a look. All right, so for the combo, it's fairly simple. You need, now there's a mixture of cards that you can have in your opening hand to get this. So I'm going to show you like a bunch of the possibilities of how you can open this, because I think that that's kind of important. I think those are all the possibilities, and I'm just going to move one of these over here and one of these over here. Okay, cool. So the cool part about this deck is that there are multiple ways of opening your combo. So you can open up an Aruha and a Trap, or an Abomination. You can open up a Rakea, one of the Traps, or one of the Abomination. You could open up 2 of these and it works. You can open up both of these and I also believe it works. So I'm going to show you guys how it looks with the traps, because this is really what you want to go for. You want to open up a trap in one of these 2, and it really gets things started. So we're going to assume that we have Escape in our hand and Aruha in our hand, which is probably the best case scenario. So you're going to set Escape in your back row, and then you're going to activate Aruha in hand, targeting it. So this will get specialed and this gets popped. And when it gets popped, you get to special summon your Sarama from deck. Sarama's effect will trigger to pop the Aruha after setting the Escape. And because Aruha was popped, you can special summon Abominable from your deck. And then you link these 2 for your copy of Unchained Soul of Rage. So the cool part about this is that you will not get hit with a Nibiru because it's not enough summons. So it's actually less summons than what you would need in order to go ahead and resolve a Nibiru. So by opening Aruha and Escape, this is set. This is summon number 1. This triggers for summon number 2. This sets this and pops this. This gets its effect. That's summon number 3. And then your link summon is summon number 4. So your opponent can't Nibiru you, and on their turn you can use this to link one of their monsters and itself to go ahead and make another link monster. Now, if we have the trap additionally, let's say we use this and we link one of their monsters and we decide to make Anguish. Then later in the turn, we can flip Escape to destroy this in one of their cards. And then we can actually add a Fiend back so we can get the Sarama back to hand. And then during their turn, we can normal it. We could set this and pop it self and then combo off again. So yeah, there's actually a lot to do. Also additionally, because this did get popped, you could special summon this back during the end phase. So yeah, essentially you're going for one of these 2-card combos, and it just works. It's just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So yeah, hopefully everybody enjoyed the video. I know that it was like a short combo thing, but it's very simple to explain when you're only summoning 4 times. But you get to use this deck to utilize your opponent's field as your own link materials, which is fantastic. Locking into Fiends is obviously a little rough sometimes in a lot of decks, but in this one it works just fine. Seeing pretty much everything is a Fiend outside of a few tech choices. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to smash the subscribe button and turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload more cool and awesome content. And for right now, this is Drew, Traveler of the Burning Abyss, signing out.